happening today? What are you thinking about when you're walking down the street? Is your head in a cloud? Don't you want to know what's going on? Let's go! Checking in with Mary Lynn. Checking in with Mary Lynn. Checking in with Mary Lynn. Let's check in with Mary Lynn.
Okay, hi, everybody. Is this exciting? This is a new podcast called Mary Lynn, Mary Lynn. That's my first name. It's not easy to say. Mary Lynn, Mary Lynn. I don't like it. I don't know why I named my podcast that. I guess it's because I'm stuck with that name. It's my mom's fault, you guys. I'm from the Midwest. So I'm podcasting here from Encino, California, where it's 100 degrees. Encino it's a nice place. It's very suburban. You may remember it from the movie Encino Man with Pauly Shore. That movie was in the 80s, and it was made to late 80s, early 90s, and it was made to make fun of Encino. Or he was like a dude. I never really saw it. I'm talking to Tony. He's just nodding because I'm laughing because I'm doing a podcast by myself, but he's secretly here because I realized I like to talk. He's my observer so that I don't feel lonely.
I didn't want to say anything until you acknowledged I was here. So people would be like, wait,
That's why I was like, I was like, am I going to acknowledge him? Or because I immediately was going to go, where are you from? It's hot here. And then I was like, Mary Lynn, keep talking. That's the style of podcast I want to do. I want to be
one of those talking ones.
A force of personality. Here comes my husband right now, interrupting the very first podcast. This is what you get when you podcast from home. He's carrying something into the house. I wonder what it is. Oh, can you hear the door? I hope you can. Hi, Matt. Yeah, Encino it's a nice place. It's very suburban. It's also kind of where you go when you're ready to give up. A little bit. You know, like it's nice, but there's not a lot of culture. There's a lot of strip malls and foot massage places and weed stores and Persian restaurants. And hot off the presses, I walked my dog at night for the first time, and my dog pooped, and I couldn't see it because it was dark. And then I thought, oh, it must not be there, and I kept walking. That's the kind of edgy behavior that you're going to find in Encino. I went off the rails and I just left that poop there, guys. Because sometimes you got to take care of number one. You know, you can't be, what are they worried about? Poop on the lawn, really? Isn't it good? Are my peas popping on this very first podcast? So here you have it. Here's how it's going to go down. You know, I knew I had given up. I was getting ready to go to the Women's March. And I was making my poster, stay away from my vagina, with glitter, and listening to Kelly Clarkson with doesn't kill you, makes you stronger, you know, and getting real pumped up for the Women's March. And then I just marched outside, got to the curb, holding my sign high, and just realized, it's hot. And there's probably not a lot of parking over at the march. Just put my sign down and marched right back inside. And I haven't left Encino since. And I'm hoping I never have to leave again. That's why I'm podcasting from my side office. What do you think of the office? Is it ladylike? My husband...
I like the color of the walls.
That came with the house. It's green. It's not a mint green. It's like a pale pastel.
It reminds me of a honeydew melon.
Oh, it's got a little earth. Yeah, you're right. I was gonna say a little, not muddiness, but it's a little more grounded than a honeydew melon.
Yeah.
But that's what this podcast is meant to be, like the bright, refreshing taste of a sweet, sweet honeydew melon, yet grounded. And there might be some darkness from time to time. Today is my son's birthday. He's actually at theater camp today. I am podcasting my first podcast on his birthday. And this morning I tried to give him some... I did give him some morning gifts, you know, so you wake up and there's like some gifts for you to open, which is awesome, right? Yeah. So he opens them, and what did I give him? I gave him a book called Watership Down. Do you know that book?
Yeah.
Have you read it?
I've never read it. It's a big one, right?
It's very famous. I read it when I was in middle school. I don't remember much about it, but I remember loving it and how it's about this society of rabbits and something. I don't remember. Someone knows. I'll get back to you after. I think I'm going to reread it. Anyway, he's 10. It's a pretty big book. It would be a big book for a 10-year-old, but he reads a lot. I think he would have liked it. He would have liked it. You see where the story is going. So then he opens that. And then I also gave him a swim shirt because we're going to Hawaii. Such a mom thing. And here's the swim shirt. And then the third one was a game of Scrabble. Now that I'm saying it out loud, these are really boring presents. But so he opens it in the morning and just kind of puts it to the side and keeps going what he's doing, like not even a thank you or anything. And I was like, oh, my husband Matt was at work, so I was just him and I just getting into it. I was like, oh, so you didn't like those presents, and he just said, no, not really, just straight up.
Yeah.
And then I took it there. I just said, okay, well, I'm going to take those back, so when we go on vacation and your friends are wearing a swim shirt, just don't ask me for one because I tried to give you one. And then he starts crying. And then I'm like, oh, I'm a real asshole. I'm not a good person. I'm not a good mom. Happy birthday. Yeah. It's also like birthdays come with that expectation of, so much excitement and you want to have like the perfect thing.
Yeah.
And I think I even said that this morning. I was like, well, what did you want? Like, what would be exciting? Which, by the way, he had a birthday party at a trampoline place, which when I was a kid would have blown my ass off if I had gone to, you walk in and it's wall-to-wall trampolines. Have you been in one of those places?
No, but I've been to someone who lived down the street from me.
Yeah.
These old doctors, they had kids, but then they moved out of the house, but they had 10 trampolines in their backyard. They'd let us just go hang out. But it was like we had to jump from trampoline to trampoline, so there was some accidents.
Ooh, there were some twisted ankles, some cracked heads, some almost concussions. I almost said percussions.
Yeah, but they were doctors, so it was fine if we did get hurt. They were there.
When things were slow for them, they're like, kids, go on the trampoline. We need something to examine, something to do. Yeah. That's obviously a well-to-do rich person's backyard who indulges their kids in a way that I'm not, but I did take him to the business version of that. And you can have we had a private dunk room. So a private exclusive VIP. So we get our own party room. And then the trampoline is with a little basket and a big basket. And we had one basket to ourselves. Don't ask me how much that costs. It was a lot of money to get the private dunking VIP treatment. And a person who works there who would come and bring pizza and waters and cut the cake. He had an ice cream cake from Menchie's, had the Celtics, his favorite basketball team. So this kid, he had an impressive, exciting, high-level birthday.
Yeah, he did well.
He got a lot of presents from it. So that was this weekend. So now it's his actual birthday, and Mom gives him the shitty, here's a game of Scrabble. And I genuinely was like, this will be fun for us to play.
Right.
And sometimes you get a shirt, and it's boring. And I also was like, this is a special book. Maybe we're going to read it. We'll read it together. Anyway, I was like, well, I'm going to take him back. And again, happy birthday. Stayed up last night making him a bunch of chocolate chip cookies to take to his theater camp today. I guess this podcast has become the mom complaining about being a mother podcast. Hey guys, I'm a big Hollywood actress as well. I have a movie coming out in September called Night School with Kevin Hart. Had to switch gears because I was sick of talking about being a mom. Let's talk about some high profile Hollywood shit right now. So yeah, this was a big Hollywood movie with Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish. I'll probably be talking about this again on the podcast because it's a big deal.
It's exciting.
This is going to be a recurring personal experience and advertisement. Maybe I'll just talk about the Scrabble and the swim shirt every podcast as well. Just keep bringing that back. But yeah, this is a big budget movie, guys. I can't believe I got in that. About a ragtag cast of characters led by Kevin Hart, who has to go back and get his GED, and we're all the other adults Rob Riggle is in it. Taron Killam, you know him from Saturday Night Live. Rob Riggle from various movies. Romney Malco is hilarious in it. Ann Winters is the young actress from 13 Reasons Why. Was that the name of that show? Never watched it.
The suicide one?
The suicide rape one. Oh, it's a suicide. One kid does commit suicide and then they all talk about it.
Yeah, like someone commits suicide and then like leaves tapes behind to like solve it or something. I don't know. Something like that. I think it was a book. So you can buy that for your son too.
Yeah, I'm going to get that. Here, read that. If you don't like The Secret Society of Rabbits. I remember Watership Down being emotional and very poignant and like a deep, soulful book with a lot of action is how I remember it. So I'm probably going to read it by myself.
And give us a book report.
And give you a book report. And he apparently won't be reading it. Who else is in the movie? Al Madrigal, my on-set movie husband. We would go have coffee when we were on the set filming it in Atlanta. And so, yeah, Kevin Hart is lying to his girlfriend that he has this high-profile lifestyle and everything kind of comes crashing down and he runs out of money. And to get another job, he has to go back and get his GED because he's sort of been hustling all this time and loses his job and has to get his GED. And I play the white woman, the mother, who is trying to better herself because she doesn't want to live on the basement floor of her in-laws' laundry room. And she had kids out of wedlock. She got pregnant in high school and is now going back to like better herself. And I'm really excited about it because my character actually has an entire arc within the movie, which is very rare that you would see, you know, my problem and, the dog snoring is a nice touch. And that my husband is a character in the movie and then you sort of see it resolve. That's such loud snoring. That's hilarious. Oh, yeah.
She's sawing logs.
She is sawing some serious logs. So very excited about the movie. The other thing about that is it was such a high profile movie, directed by Malcolm Lee, who's wonderful. And he is coming hot off of the huge success of Girls Trip. And so when I showed up in Atlanta for rehearsal, which is also unusual, you don't always get, oftentimes you just show up and you're going on set and you're like having to put the pieces together and feel it out and see how everybody is. And this was, we went there a few days early for rehearsal and it was up in this conference room. And I remember just walking in there kind of cold and Kevin Hart is right, you know, as close as you are to me and the director. And I'm nervous. I'm surprised that, you know, I've had a lot of experience, but it's a new situation. It's like, oh shit, like this couldn't be in my mind. I don't know. I was associating it with high pressure, I guess, because I like to torture myself and, you know, make it as like scary as possible.
Sure.
But I'm just thinking, it was a huge budget movie. He's just had this massive hit. It's Kevin Hart. Like there's a lot on the line. This is not just showing up to your friend's indie movie. It's a big deal. So I was going in there like, okay, like feel it out. And they were just eating sandwiches and Kevin Hart could not have been nicer or more friendly and just kind of, you know, was on his phone. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. And then, you know, a few other actors showed up and I think Romney knew him. They worked together before on 40-Year-Old Virgin and maybe other stuff. So Kevin Hart just stands up and he's like, okay, yeah, it's a big deal. I'm a big deal. Kind of like, you know, joking, but also admitting, yeah, I'm a huge star. And he said, but I want each and every one of you to be as funny as possible. And the funnier you are, the funnier the movie will be. And that we will all support each other. And that's exactly what you want to hear is someone, you know, being the mega superstar that they are, but also being self-deprecating, but still filling those shoes of like, yeah, I'm awesome. You know, like if you ever watch his Instagram, he's so positive all the time. Yeah. It's crazy. That dude does like stadiums. We'd be shooting nights and he would fly out on the weekends to go play a couple stadium shows. And it was around the time of the, all those hurricanes were happening. And one time he flew on the weekend to go do like hurricane relief help. I think this was like back when Texas was one of the first ones flooding. That was before it hit the other side, below Florida there. But yeah, he is just that amazing, unstoppable force. And sometimes I can't even watch his Instagram because it's so positive. I'm just like, dude, take it down a notch. Like, he's that dude. I've never met anyone like that. We'd shoot 12 hours a day and he would work out. Like, let's say it's a 6 or 7 a.m. call time and he's working out at like 4 or 5, and then we'll come and do a 12-hour day. And you'll see that on his Instagram. He's like, getting back at it, you know?
Yeah.
Just played 2 stadiums last night. Flew back in to do my workout. So he's amazing. Anyway, so he said, like, was just the coolest dude, because that's what you want to hear as an actor and as a fellow person. You want to be acknowledged and give him permission, like, oh, okay, I'm going to be cool to play and do this the right way. That's what you want. And then Malcolm Lee, the director, was the same way. You know, he said, let's improvise and have fun and find the funny and find the characters. And that was really exciting for me because I never really had that before, been in a movie like that where you kind of do what's written and then it amps up and gets sillier and you're improvising stuff. And I even had stuff in the trailer that is improvised. So that was really exciting. And Malcolm is like at the top of his game, and making the you know, this big broad comedy, but is also just like chill and is confident, because also you can like improvise and it can be terrible, right?
Yeah.
So or it's like off of what the point is.
Sure.
And this was like the best of all worlds, because it was really silly stuff happened, and we were allowed to have the takes go longer, but it was all within the realm of what the story was and what the characters were. And people occasionally would throw lines to each other. And I had one moment where I was reacting in character and sort of what was on the book, and then the shot was on me, and I kind of was just sat there, and Al Madrigal was behind me, and he's like, go, like, this is your chance to improvise lines. And I was scared because you have to go that line past, like, heighten for the comedy past what the initial reaction is. And then I was just nervous because I'm not used to sort of having the freedom to do that. So then he nudged me, and then I was like, oh, and then I just started improvising. And then as soon as I opened my mouth, it was, and gave myself permission to do it, it was super fun. I think I said a lot of filthy stuff in that take, though, that didn't necessarily make it in, about my husband Randy and the state of our marriage. I think that's where I went in that moment, which I do on stage in my stand-up about my real marriage. And also I was when I was talking about night school. Oh, she stopped snoring now. My dog died recently. I had 2 dogs. Yeah, we're going to get into it on the podcast. I did a show at the Improv the other night, and they have these teen tours where I don't even know what it was. I mean, I should have, known what it was and put in some research of how to talk to teens, because you get on stage and it's like, oh, shit. Like, I think they emailed me when I booked it that it was a teen tour, and then I forgot. And
so the audience was all teens?
Yes, and they're like being served ice cream and stuff. But as the date is coming up, I kind of forgot, because on my calendar I do this all the time where I have my spots, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm at the Improv tonight. And even that night I had another spot at the Improv, which was a regular spot. And so you're just thinking of it as a stand-up spot. And I go into the main room, and the sound guy and the guy who was hosting, they both had this look on their face. And this guy, Craig, I forgot how you say his last name. So he comes up and he's like, yeah, it's a teen show. And I was like, oh, I forgot. I go, how are they? He's like, they're all right. I've had worse of this type of thing. Meaning, like, they're not great, but they're not horrible. And I'm sitting there with the sound guy going, oh, like running through all my material. And then I had planned on doing a certain set because I'm going to Montreal and I'm doing an 8-minute TV taping. So I wanted to practice that set. Mm-hmm. You would think, oh, what a great opportunity. And now I'm sitting here going, everything in my set is for adults. Like, I'm in my 40s. Like, I don't know how to talk to you people. I don't want to talk to you people. Yikes. You're teens. You shouldn't even be in the club. Yeah. And I was talking to the sound guy. He goes, start with your thing about Trump. they're really responding to that. And I go, what about my thing about doing cocaine or coming down off cocaine? He's like, and he just looks at me and goes, I didn't see cocaine until I was 30 years old. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Why would I say that to them? Like, they're so sweet and innocent. And then I have all this stuff in my act about, my husband was a rebound and I got pregnant by accident. It's like you take the real life kernel and then you sort of like unearth it, like scoop it up. Poor Matthew has to put up with me like talking about him on stage. But the idea is to take real stuff, at least to me, and like get down into the muck of it and then express that and heighten that. Like, that's my favorite stuff because I think it gives people license to, like I have this thing where and it's very simple. It's not like a super written joke, but it always gets a laugh. Not at teen night, it doesn't. I didn't even say it that night, but I have a thing where I go, I'm married. And then you just sort of see my eyes like scan across the worlds of like, just like, like whatever it is, exhaustion or like, but it's just this pause. And I'm like, thank you. My husband talked to me the other day. And then it's this whole thing about, I'm startled because he talked to me first thing in the morning and, indicating we don't talk very much. Right. And now, is a kernel of that true? Sure, but I like to heighten it and really get in there and poke in there because, number one, it's fun and it's exaggerated, and that can be an element of comedy. But also, I want people that are watching to feel relieved, because everybody experiences stuff like that. Anyway, what was my point in saying that? The teens. Oh, so what else did I want to say about? I remember. So the teens. My set is not going very well. I think I opened by saying, I could be your parent. I should be your parent, but I started a little bit late. And I was just trying to relate to them. I didn't really have like prepared jokes for teens or whatever. Yeah. And then I followed Dax's advice, the sound guy at Improv. He's also a comic. And I sort of quickly went into a thing about Trump that my son said. And it was fine. Like, it got fine laughs. But then you could tell they're not really, like, engaged, Like, my stuff was doing fine. And then I found myself, instead of going out further, I was sort of going in and just, okay. Like, sort of getting a little bit drier and kind of just going through the words. And it's like, I don't really feel like trying to pander to you right now. Like, your hormones are raging. You're interested in each other. You're being fed ice cream. And like, I'm an adult.
What a weird thing.
I want to talk about adult things. Yes, it's a very strange thing that it even exists. But it fucks with you as a comic because you want to try to play to any audience. But then, once approaching it and having time a few days after it, it's like, it's not designed to be a successful thing.
Who are these kids? Are they like at-risk youth that they're like keeping off the streets but take them to a comedy club?
Josh Adam Myers went up afterwards and he's like, wow, hi to you rich Jewish people that your parents can afford for you to be on this 60-day trip. And again, I didn't even know. Had I been more prepared, I probably could have like messed around with it more. Sure. But it's like I wasn't. That's what it warranted, is like to prep specifically for that. But again, I was just going to do my spot for the night and talk about the things that I want to talk about. But then that's a whole other conversation, like weighing how much do you play into your particular audience and write for them, or how much are you want to do what you want to do, and you want to hope, you want it to be relatable to as many people as possible. But yeah, my act is not really for a 15-year-old, it's just not. So I'm doing fine. Just like fine. And then at one point I just lost the will, and I am working on material about my dog dying, and I've gotten some laughs about it before. But that in that particular moment, because of everything that was going on with the teens, I just went, so my dog died. And I just, I thought, let me be honest and open with them. And it was just the most palpable. I felt like I was stabbing them in the heart. I was like, wow, everything I have has like a tinge of like darkness or awkwardness, or even stuff about my marriage. There's like a bleakness, which I enjoy because I think that's a big part of life. Sure. That we need to sort of uncover that to laugh at it. Like, that's my favorite stuff. I mean, not that I can't be silly as well, but so yeah, I tried talking about that. There's a few aspects of it that I haven't totally formulated, but one of them is like the big one that is no longer with us. She didn't have an appetite, and I was looking at this little. That's what reminded me, because she was snoring, and the little cockapoo. When the big one wasn't doing well, I was looking at this little dog Emmy, and I was like, "Oh, you still have an appetite? How nice for you." Well, your sister can't eat right now because she's the last stage of her life. How nice that you're still greedy and ready to have extra treats because she's not eating. Like, I had this weird, like I was trying to make her feel shitty for being alive. Like, how do you think she feels right now? But she was stressed out, though. That little dog Emmy right there, the cockapoo. The big one's a Briard, which is an amazing breed. If you don't know that breed, they're not very common here. Oh, like on cue, she's coming back with a strong snore game. My old neighbor was a breeder. She was from Czechoslovakia, and this is a popular dog in Europe. But she talked me into taking one of her. It was her personal dog who had puppies, and I was like, I'm scared. I'm kind of crazy, and I can't be responsible for a large dog. You see people who are like, you shouldn't have a dog because especially a big breed that's gonna. She's like, I'll help you. Because, a big breed like that, they could be really protective. And in Europe, they're trained to be police dogs. But I said, I'm not responsible enough because you have to put them in all types of different situations to be socialized. Because if you just leave them in the house, they'll become like pure attack dogs because they haven't acclimated to like, you're outside now. And they want to herd, and they can be very protective. So you have to like socialize them. Anyway, this dog turned out to be, and the lifespan of an old, bigger breed like that is 10 to 12 years. And so she did have a nice full life, but I socialized her to the point where she was just a big pussy, like just a love dog. And there was one point where my husband, Matt, this was in our old house, there was some noise or some disturbance. And, we don't own a gun in the house. So he grabbed a golf club and he was going out there, and he called his trusty dog, this big Briard. Like, and her bark is scary. So she did act as a watchdog. Like, if you were outside the house and she heard a noise, she would bark and it would be scary. So she is a deterrent. But when the shit was really hitting the fan, Matt goes like, he's got the golf club in one hand and he's like, Ginger, like, let's go check out this disturbance. And she just looked at him and looked at me and ran over to me and just nuzzled into my leg. I was like, okay. I guess I did pretty well at socializing this dog. But yeah, I think that was the only thing that I wanted to say about that I admonished that. Oh no, I was going to say that little dog Emily, when the big one Ginger was sick, she started peeing like really bad. And now that she's actually no longer here, and part of it, I'm like, she's getting old too. So is she just incontinent? But I think she was upset because the big one was sick. So she, they can't talk, obviously. So she kept like letting go some big pees, like something's wrong. Like she was trying to tell us because she was peeing so much because the big one was just getting like skinnier and like not drinking and like laying. And we'd have to walk over her, but she was still responsive. So, it's like a really messed up choice that we make for them when they get to a certain amount of suffering, but she was like almost like, she's suffering, like my sister's sick. So anyway, I think, am I going to end on the death of my dog and the incontinence of the dog that is left? Is that a pretty positive note? Am I following the
anti Kevin Hart?
Yeah, exactly. So guys, this is the first podcast, and that was it. It's going to be me talking about mundane things and dark things at the same time. I hope you liked it. More to come. Did you see the new Sacha Baron Cohen show?
I haven't.
Oh, shit.
I've seen the clips and stuff.
Next level, dude. Maybe I'll talk about that next time. Because I wrote a little note here of like what I've been watching lately. I watch Big Brother with my husband.
Oh yeah, I've never seen it.
It's not good. And my son will kind of get invested and my husband, he's like, this is trash. Like I can't have this on when our son's here, but we'll like watch it when he's. We used to do that with The Walking Dead before I stopped watching that. Yeah. I stopped watching around the time of Negan. I'm sorry. I know people love their Walking Dead. Maybe not so much anymore.
But I feel like half the population's the same way. They stopped watching.
Yeah,
too.
there was that drop off of like, okay, that first episode with him where he just unzips somebody's head and like they show the whole thing. It's like this is terrible. I'm just watching beyond, because I think before that we're just like trying to rationalize the violence, and once they kind of jumped the shark on that, it was like, all right, what? But anyway, back when we used to watch that, it used to be we're waiting until he goes to sleep so that he doesn't come out and see these like horrifying zombies. And now it's Big Brother. We're like, wait till he falls asleep so we can watch this absolute rubbish show.
Yeah.
But we love it. And by rubbish, I mean fantastic. But there's really interesting psychological things that happen on that show with the characters.
Because it's a game, right?
It's a game. They're all in there. And now it's season 20, so they all know it really well.
Yeah.
And I think this one, the way that they picked characters, I mean, they're all different personalities, but they all have a similar knowledge of the show. So it's really interesting because I feel like years ago it used to be more new. I mean, people still lose their minds emotionally. And that's what's happening now. Like there's this one girl that's like so sweet. And a couple weeks ago, she was crying, or she didn't get a competition. Her name's Sam, if anybody's watching this show. So she's a welder in real life, like from this small town. And, you know, she's just got this cute little voice, and she lost a competition. So she had to become a robot, which again, Big Brother itself, they're coming up with these whacked out. Yeah. So they made a robot, and I just imagine she's in a room remotely, and she can see through a camera, and she can use her voice, but she can't really participate.
Sure.
And so everyone's they call it like their social game and their competition. So they're all just hanging out with each other, and they're not allowed to have any media or anything.
Right.
They're just stuck in the house, and they all start to like lose their minds and go against each other and create alliances and stuff like that. So she and everybody, then there's other behind the scene things where like the viewers will vote her. We love her. Like they're super sympathetic to her because she was like emotional and very sweet. And like, you know, I just mean the best I'm just genuine and all this stuff. So then a couple weeks later, the one we just watched, she wins this competition and she becomes this like diabolical dictator, because usually when people win, like they're the head of household and they can influence who gets voted off or whatever. And this time she's like, don't even campaign for, staying in the house. I've already decided who I'm nominating. And so partly you're like, okay, this is sort of a badass move, because usually people come up and go, here's why I want to stay in the house.
Right.
And they have one-on-one private conversations, and it's a whole psychological gameplay. And she's like, this room is my room for the week. And they call it head of household, and they give them a fancy room, and everyone else has like a shitty room. And when you go into the head of household, you get like family pictures, and you get your favorite snacks and like nice blankets and a robe and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, don't even come in. And don't even campaign me. And then it cuts to like their diary, and she's one of those people who's like, once I've made my mind, there's nothing to it. There's, you know, nothing that can change my mind. And as you're watching it, there's a part of you that's like, well, that's badass to be that strong, but then that's also really foolish because you're just being really black and white and really
better keep that position all game or you're toast.
Yeah, and then she did the craziest. I don't even know why I'm talking about this. It's weird if you don't watch the show, but I think it will translate. So she went to make the nominations, and she picked these two women, and then she completely went out of the game and just like took a shit on them in this really crazy way. She's like, I don't like the way you guys, and this is, again, you don't watch it, but when you start doing like character assassination to the point, like at first I thought she was like, I've made my nominations and that's going to be it. But she went into this like diatribe about, you guys are flirting with all the other guys and that's really bad gameplay. Like she went into this super subjective, like, dude, what are you doing? And it was actually really good TV because she said, you know, and she basically was like, you guys are sluts and that's why I don't think you're playing a good game. Like the absolute wrong thing you should be doing in your position is take this like stance like that. Anyway, it's really was interesting psychologically. And then by doing that, like the people who were friends with these girls, like another dude is now turning against this woman because he's like, oh, you just shit on my girls. Like, what's wrong with you? It's like, you could have just nominated them and not said all that stuff. So it's interesting in that way how people, she got a little bit of power and she said way too much. it could have been an interesting move, but now you've basically told these women that they're pieces of shit, and only one of them's going to get voted out and the other one's going to stay in. And again, everyone who's friends with these women don't like you. Mm-hmm. And then there's this other guy who's really like macho and non-emotional, and they put him in his diary room and he's just laughing his ass off. He's like, great, you just now you're a target just by your behavior. But in her mind, she's like really self-righteous. So there are things about that you can take into life, I guess. So Big Brother. I don't know which is a better way to end, my dog's death or like me taking Big Brother seriously.
Recap of this week's episode.
Yeah. That's where we're at, folks. We're in Encino. The podcast is called Mary Lynn. Thanks for checking in and tuning in for this very first podcast, and please come back. Bye.